Welcome to Feel, Peel, Thrive, formerly Food Feels Banana Peels, a holistic podcast created to inspire a shift in perspective. Here, we explore what it really means to feel, peel back the layers, and thrive from the inside out. Each episode invites you to consider a shift in your perspective on what it truly means to be healthy, beyond quick fixes or trends, and to see wellness as an empowered, inside-out journey rooted in awareness, accountability, and self-trust. I'm your host, Laura Pfeiffer, and I'm here to guide honest, heart-centered conversations that help you reconnect with your body, realign with your values, and live with greater clarity, connection, and vitality. Because when we learn to feel, we can heal. And when we peel back the stories that hold us back, we make space to thrive. Hi and welcome. Today I am speaking with my dear friend Beth Sturdevant. Beth Sturdevant is here to talk to us about property healing, a concept that some may have heard of and I would suggest many are not aware of. And so I'm so excited to talk to her today to bring you some new information about maybe something that may resonate as far as what is going on in your home. So Beth is joining us from Ottawa. She's a healer, a shaman, and the founder of Property Healing Ottawa. Beth bridges the energetic and physical realms, helping homes, businesses, and people return to their natural state of harmony and flow. Through her practice, she clears and balances spaces that have absorbed years of emotional, energetic, and spiritual residue, transforming them into places of renewal, safety, and vitality. As a shaman and intuitive healer, Beth guides others in reconnecting with themselves, helping them to find balance, clarity, and grounded peace within the spaces they live and work. Her approach is both deeply spiritual and profoundly practical, reminding us that when the energy within and around us is healed, life itself realigns with clarity, peace, and purpose. Beth, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor to chat with you about this.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Laura.
I would love if you would start by telling us a little bit about you for listeners who don't know who Beth is and kind of a little bit about you and your journey.
Oh gosh, yeah. Who am I? Often probably find the same thing. It's difficult to encapsulate that, especially when you do so many things, right? And when we've lived so many different lifetimes in one life, so to speak. So, in a nutshell, I am a healer, as you said, shaman. I'm a business owner, but I like to encapsulate it all as saying I'm an artist, I work in the healing arts. I'm also a cellist. I play in the musical arts. Um, I'm also strongly believe in the warrior arts, in the essential energies and balanced um, nature of those gifts and those crafts that they bring to our lives. So, my journey at first was through music and kind of exploring that realm and that world. But as life would dictate and my path would kind of be driven in a different direction, where I was to experience more of the healing arts, which for a long period of my life, um, I had no relationship with. I didn't really believe in anything. I wouldn't say I was atheist, but I definitely was agnostic. Um, and it just wasn't a part of my reality. I went to church growing up, but didn't had no connection to it, personally and spiritually. But it was through my own experiences and traumas and just being broken apart, so to speak, where I started to question, well, reality, we'll say, my human experience and what was possible. And that's when I started to go and explore alternative therapies. Now, I'd done a few before, um, and I'd done traditional therapy and traditional Western medicine and things like that, but none of it was really working. So it wasn't until I came into contact with our wonderful mentor and teacher and friend, Pete Bernard, in the Eighth Fire, which is his schooling, where he offers programs, and I entered into those programs. Um, Not really knowing what they were, but, it was through that exploration and that diving deep into my own self-healing and my own reharmonizing, we'll say, even as a cellist, uh, it's interesting the correlation between healing and the disharmony and the discourse within us as humans and how that relates to music in such a beautiful and spiritual way. So it was through the constant, like, I mean, 8 to 10 years of studying and practicing um, these medicines and these teachings and all of that what that brought me, that I uh, really started to discover who I was and how everything came together, and from that decided. Uh, well, it actually was a real estate friend of mine who suggested um, I'd done a space clearing for them um, to help sell her multi-million dollar home, and the results were instantaneous. And she suggested that maybe I can really do this and make it more public, these space clearings, these property healings, and really make it a quote unquote business, or at least an offering, because I'd been doing them for a long time. It was just kind of one of the many things that we
Mhm.
do, right, as you know. So to actually make it a thing and to really kind of craft it and form it into an offering, so to speak, on its own, was new to me. And so through that, um yeah, it would started to develop, and Property Healing Ottawa kind of became its own entity, so to speak.
Amazing. So I know people are going to have tons of questions like first of all, like what is property healing? We talk a lot about people and people healing in and of themselves and how that manifests outward, and we start living more in balance, harmony, and alignment. But how do you describe property healing to someone? Why would someone's property need a healing?
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I always like to think of it as our space is who we are, right? If somebody lives in a hoarder, we'll say,
Hmm.
is a physical expression of how somebody feels mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally, spiritually inside of themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't live in that disarray and chaos. The same thing with messy homes, dishes that remain unwashed, things like that. So our home is literally the place where we either heal or we don't. We either prosper or we don't. And if we don't have the environment energetically that also supports that, that has astronomical effects on how we think, on our emotions, our reactions, you know, how we're able to go about our daily lives. And so we really want to cultivate a space, an environment that is supportive of how we want to live and who we want to be and the things we want to create in life and all of that. So it's extremely essential, but we don't, it's new. I mean, it's not new. It's not new. I mean, shamanism is the oldest form of therapy and throughout human history, but it's only new to our consciousness at this
Hmm.
juncture in life. So it's connecting the dots and making people, helping people, we'll say, not making people, helping them to understand, oh, that's why I feel like this. Oh, that's why I react like this. And then one step further, allowing them to experience the change, because I can't quantify it. There are scientific findings and evidence of the science behind smudging in, and how, smudging is the ancient practice, the indigenous practices of burning sage, and the smoke from the sage, which is also antimicrobial, releases positive ions into the air, And so those positive ions attach to negative ions, and it will help to dispel like dust and bacteria and also heavy toxic energies. So there is a science to the smudging, but how people really learn best is by experiencing the differences. And that's kind of the offering. And I know it's a very giant leap of faith often in, well, is this like really like how, like, am I really going to spend money on something when I don't even know it's actually going to do anything? Um, I get it. I totally get it. So often people will come to me, either they've experienced it before or somebody's highly recommended their own experience through property healing, um, or as a last resort. I've tried everything. I don't know why my life is so chaotic. I don't know why, like, or something spiritual has been bothering them for throughout their lives, and they're finally ready to acknowledge that. So, yeah.
Right. There's many, many facets to this too. So two things that I wanted to say because I wanted to share a story. And you know that I moved into my place going on 10 years ago now. And when I moved into my, right? 10 years ago. And when I moved into my place, I asked the universe for all the structure. I asked for all the bones of everything. So I wanted, windows and doors and roof and furnace and AC and all the practical things. And so I got those, and that was fantastic. Little did I know that I moved into the space of a hoarder. And I didn't know because I didn't know how much she had been taking out to the garbage and the giant garbage canister that was in the driveway prior to purchasing all of these things. So I moved into this energy that was very heavy, like extremely heavy. And you talked a little bit about it, or you touched a little about it, but the way that we've been taught is that our personal belongings can be a reflection of us. And so things like our car, when my wheel is flat, I always think I'm running on three quarters, I'm running on half, I'm running on E, like I got to slow down. And so when I moved into this home, interestingly enough, is when I began doing a lot of the deep inner subconscious work that we do. Um, and I found out not only was I in the space of a hoarder, but that the place was also infested with mice in the basement, and they had been living through the walls and the ceiling and everything. So I moved in, and very shortly after, it ended up being an entire basement gut. So, moved in, gutted the entire basement, which I view as gutting, basically starting the gutting of my subconscious holdings, which we know is about 90% of what we hold is subconscious. Our beliefs and all of these things are held here without access. So I I gutted the entire basement and begun to rebuild from there. And so that's kind of the physical manifestation, I would say, of maybe those heavy energies, because like attracts like. And so I felt that there was, because of the low vibration, the heavy energy that was in there, it was attracting things like rodents.
Mhm.
So, needless to say, I definitely have cleared the space, and even this discussion reminds me that it's time to do again. Absolutely, because it's something that we should be doing regularly. But I also wanted to say that what you are doing is more than coming in with smudge. And
Mhm.
not to undermine what sage can do, because it's beautiful. However, you are working at a deeper level for our space. Let's talk a little bit about how our spaces hold energy. Do they hold it in physical, like physically in the walls and things like that?
Yeah, they can. They can hold it in the walls, especially things that are like metals or reflective elements like mirrors, doorknobs. I did a house once, and they had, a bar in the basement, and it had like one of those brass rails around it, and the previous owner was a major alcoholic, and a lot of his a lot of his emotions and emotional energy and consciousness was like residing in there, so to speak. um so yeah, absolutely, it's yeah, it can really stay stuck in our spaces, much like, much like smells, right?
Absolutely.
Lingering smells. So, clearing them, opening up your windows, getting light, getting live plants in,
Mhm.
all of those things are and even salt, right? Bringing salt lamps, or sometimes
Mhm.
I'll tell people, or suggest to them bringing, just putting bowls of water with sea salt in it around their home, because it helps to absorb some of the toxic, heavier, denser energies in there.
Beautiful. So some things people can do on their own as well. Thank you. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about physical, mental, emotional stuff. Like how would people know specifically that, my home could use or my space could use this clearing?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like you shared with your story. Um, Sorry, my computer. My house needs a clearing. Is my it does. It does. It's actually. I'll speak more to that later. But um, as you shared, big changes, transitions in our lives, obviously a move where you're entering into a space that you never built, um, that holds the energy, the consciousness, the experiences of other people,
Hmm.
essential to clear that. Just like you wouldn't move into a home without cleaning it.
Hmm.
We, so that's a number one. And number two is, if you've gone through anything traumatic, whether it's a breakup or death in the family, death in the home, especially including animals, things like that. Very great opportunity to do that. If you're finding that you're emotionally overreacting, you're kind of not able to, you might be experiencing more anger, you may be experiencing more sadness, things like that, that are unusual for you. Like, it's okay, obviously normal to have varying degrees of emotion in our lives, but if you tend to be, a generally emotionally um, stable person, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, you're feeling extremely sad more often than not, extremely angry and reactive more often than not, generally that's a good indication that you have something going on in your space that is contributing to those thoughts and those feelings. Um, and then it may not be obvious, but to some it is. If things are moving in your home, cold spots, animals are barking or looking in spaces when there's nothing there, lights on, and things that would might
Hmm.
indicate there could be some type of spiritual activity in your space as well, is a great indication that you would need a property healing.
Great. Now, what also came up for me while you were speaking was visitors, because people come in and out of our home and people who are like particularly running a business, something like that. Can we talk a little bit about how that might affect people?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so for getting to the spiritual aspect and even the emotional one, um, spirits will, as you know, or I'll say can, spirits that are still occupying space here with us, can attach themselves to us. And for a variety of reasons, whether they vibe with your vibe, whether there's some kind of unresolved uh, something within you that also feels similar, or makes them feel familiar, so to speak. Could also be, they might not be very. friendly, and they may enjoy the whatever chaos it creates in
Mhm.
your life as well. So so oftentimes, people who have entities, we'll call them, that are on them, and they come into your home, especially if you have a business, like say therapists, things, that are in and out. Sometimes those can stay in your home. And again, much like dirt, somebody who comes in with dirty boots and they walk in through your house, some of the dirt might come off their boots and stay in your home. The same is also with energy and the emotions, the energy of our emotions. Somebody's can come into your house feeling extremely angry. Energy attracts energy. That might stay a little bit of residual of that and then start to accumulate in your home. So, especially if you work from home, um, whether you're working virtually, you're interacting with other people, whether people are coming in and out, you definitely would want to at least experience how it feels, the difference between um, how you feel before as property healing and then after. You're like, oh God, that is like our animals are such great. They're
Mhm.
such great indicators. After I'll
Mhm.
do it, I don't know about you and your dogs, but like after I'll do a healing on a space clearing or property healing on my home, like my animals are like, woohoo! And they're
Mhm.
just like zooming around, like all
Yes.
happy. It's wild. So yeah, so those are great indicators. Yeah.
And I really love that analogy that you can't continue to come back to the physical because people can understand physically dirt. I see it. I don't want it in my house. I don't want it in my space. Somebody comes in with dirty boots, I clean it up. So it's the same thing when we're talking about some of these unseen
Yes.
emotions, thoughts, all of these different types of kind of lower vibrational energies that can be stored in various spaces, places, things in our homes. While we can't see it, it doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because we can't see our thoughts and we can't see our emotions does not mean that they are not present. And we, as these physical and mental emotional beings, we know that just because you can't see that I have pain doesn't mean that I don't have pain. So I really love that analogy. I feel like that would be something that a lot of people can understand, and a great way to preface it because you clean up the dirt in your house and the physical dirt you can see, and this is almost like cleaning up the physical dirt that or the dirt that you can't see.
Yeah, that's a great, yeah. And even in the world of realty, they have the um gosh, my brain just fried there. The stagers, the physical stage,
Yes. Yes.
So we always say like there's physical stagers in selling a home, the people that come in and make it all pretty uh, and feel good. And then there's the non-physical stagers who come in and also make it feel good, but also help the house and the property sell faster. So yeah, so they're both essential.
Okay. I love that. There's a house across the street from me that I've been meaning to see if I can get a hold of the owners because it has gone up on the market like three, four times. And each
Oh,
time I see that sign, I think, Beth, I gotta I have to get their name to Beth. So then one other thing that I saw that you work with is also property blessings. Can we
yeah.
talk about property blessings a little bit?
Absolutely. So that is new. So that is not while a lot of my teachings while we trained with Pete Bernard, who is an Algonquin medicine man from Pikwakanagan First Nation, none of what I do is cultural in any way as far as my practices and my spirituality and how I heal properties and people. However, I believe and I know it is essential to our spaces and our land, especially because we are um, blessed guests here, that it's essential to bless the places that we live or we occupy or we work on as well. So a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, Wayne McKenzie, he's an artist, an amazing artist. He's also a former chief of Temiskaming First Nation, which is about 4 or 5 hours away from Ottawa. So I've gotten to know him, and he approached me about offering his services through Property Healing Ottawa, which I was very honored and grateful for, because those are things that I'm not able to do, understandably, as I'm not Indigenous, but I something I firmly believe is essential. And so he does offer teachings and blessings that are deeply rooted in the Anishinaabe spirituality and land-based wisdom that uh, obviously he practices, and he's grown up um, learning. So very grateful to have his services. So for that, because he does live far away, it is a bigger commitment, we'll say financially, but also time wise, right? Because we have to uh, hire him for basically the day to come to do any of his blessings of the land. But yeah, very grateful to be working with alongside him. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, if someone were to be interested in a property healing, what kind of time would we be looking to commit? Would someone be in the house with their animals? Would everybody need to vacate? How does that process work? Just so that people have an idea.
Oh, that's a great question. So I say with mine, and I also have an associate that works on my team, Linda Hayden Carroll. She's a well-established and very, very respected, I know your friend too, respected healer in the Ottawa area. She's been practicing this for over 15 years. So from our side, as far as the property healings, um, generally, it's no less than 2 hours. So like a 1,500 square foot home will take up to about 2 hours work. And what that includes is we always reach out, we speak to whomever we're going to be working on their property. We get a sense of what's going on, why they feel they might need a property healing. And then we'll do interconnected work. And what that means is without even going into the property, I'll get information about it, possibly see pictures of their home or their space. And then I'll connect, because healing and consciousness and energy has zero area code or mileage. We don't need to be there physically. I'm able to actually connect interconnectedly with the space, just to get more information about what's going on, and also to prepare it so that whatever is happening there knows that I'm coming. And so we'll do that. And then when we arrive at the space, we like to meet with the property owners and have them show us around. And they can either stay during the entire thing. We'll protect them. There's no uh, danger for them being there physically, including their animals. But they can also leave if they feel comfortable, whatever they prefer to do. Um, if they have animals, the animals are welcome to say, I do ask that they are um, contain, secluded in some way. You know, if a dog has a crate or perhaps in a bathroom, and I know that, or go for a walk with the owners. Cats, obviously harder to do that with, so maybe they'll stay in a particular room or something. Because I have had animals react um, not consciously, just because they feel and
Hmm.
they see and they know things that we as humans often don't. So just for our safety, we ask that. And then at the end, we always sit down. Either if the person's not there and they're busy, we'll connect over the phone, or we'll sit down in person and go over everything we've done. Tell them also what they can do to continue to cultivate and foster the harmonious energy in their home, and whatever it is they want to bring into their home, what kind of things they're wanting to cultivate in their life. So we educate them as well, and offer them some tips to do that. So that's the property healing portion. Now for Wayne McKenzie, with his land-based blessings and teachings, his he requires about 4 hours of time for that, because he really sits down with you and he teaches you and educates you, and he does singing and drumming and smudging, and it's a really beautiful opportunity to kind of go into ceremony with him and your space. So um, a longer commitment, but a really sacred one. So.
It sounds lovely.
Mm.
Thank you, Beth. So, um, I feel like in closing, because I think you've given us such amazing information to contemplate, to work with, to I know that the podcast I'm really working to help shift people's perspective, right? To help give people information um, and deliver information that people may not otherwise connect with. And so I believe that you've given, listeners a lot to consider. And kind of in finishing up, what would you say would be kind of just a few things to look for if you suspect that your space may need a clearing?
A few things to look for.
Look for, feel, however you physical, mental, emotional, that kind of
Sure.
thing.
Absolutely. Um, just an awareness of your emotional state and your mental state. Do your thoughts gravitate more towards negative thoughts? Are you feeling more kind of heavier, denser emotions? Um, how are things going in your relationships? Are, your business, your work, and all of those things, those external factors that show us what's happening, not just within us, but potentially also within the space that we occupy, because really it's a symbiotic relationship, right? We are in co-relationship with our spaces.
Mm.
um, so I mean, how many times have we walked into space, oh my god, this space feels amazing, like it just feels so welcoming and just positive, and then sometimes you'll walk into space, you're like, oh god, no, no,
Hmm.
I need to leave right away. So
Hmm.
trusting that, trusting those feelings and those sensations and those things that we might know, but then we are quick to silence or doubt. So just kind of just starting to become aware and question why, and then maybe opening up the possibility to the fact that maybe there might be more than meets the eye in why you may be thinking, feeling, or doing what you're doing.
Sure. And then what also came up for me here was if we are to step outside of our space where we spend so much time and, ground into the earth and feel a certain way, and then we step back into our space and we feel a different way, would that be a good indicator? I know that when my space is very heavy in energy, I can almost feel it like a
Mm,
coming through the door, right? So go outside, ground, take a few breaths, and then, come back into the space. And if you notice a big change, would that be an indicator that somebody could feel and maybe potentially experience in evaluating whether or not their space could use a clearing?
sure. Yeah, that's a great, yeah. If you're going for a walk in the woods, you're out in nature, and you just notice how harmonious and balanced you feel, and then you enter your space, you're like, automatically goes into chaos. It's
Mhm.
a great indicator. Also noticing children and animals, what they're doing. Are they feeling more reactive, more emotional, things like that? Um, Electronics, are they wigging out? For myself in my own space, we've gone through major renovations. We've gone through major transitions. My father actually transitioned, so passed away in this house. We moved back to support my mother as well. So she's residing in the space, and she's going through health dementia and things like that. So a lot of very dense, heavy things, and a lot of emotions naturally from all of these major changes. So I notice it. It's very heavy. It's very thick, and I do notice when I leave. I notice that when the space needs more space clearing than usual because of what's going on, because of who's also occupying the space with me. Um, so I do notice that I'm more eager to leave my space more often than not. So I'm like, okay, I gotta go do another property healing, and and that's okay, because I can only control myself, right? I can't control the other people who
Hmm.
occupy my well, I don't like
Yes.
the word control, but I can't do the work for them other than continuing to foster the environment for them to thrive and feel good and yada yada yada. So it does take more work for me given my current circumstances. And so sometimes I will reach out to friends. I'll reach out to Linda, my associate, and because it's kind of like I think of like remember that Seinfeld episode where he was dating a massage therapist? Do you remember? I know it's so random, but he kept wanting a massage and she didn't want to give him a massage because that's what she does for her career. So sometimes in my space, it's like, oh, another one. I need to, even though it's easy and I do it, it's nice to kind of get other people in your space because it's unbiased and
Support. And it's support,
warm,
right?
and um, it's nice to get a break. So all that to say is for me, the indicator is me wanting to be out of my home more often than not, and noticing the emotions of those around me as well.
Right. I'm wondering about, you know, and I believe I know the answer to this just because everything changes, right? Everything is impermanent. We're constantly having these changes. You just talked about, the transition of your dad and your mom's health and all these things. So the question was going to be how often one would have a property,
Mm.
like a space clearing, but I feel like it would be more so whenever one feels that the space is, once you've experienced what it feels like for your space to be light and harmonious and balanced, then you will have no problem, and correct me if I'm wrong, then you'll likely have no problem identifying when your space needs to be cleared again. 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, 2 decades, who knows? How does that resonate? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, and I would say yes, but I also would say that it's also a practice of because even in myself, I mean, I'm a healthy person, but I get derailed in taking care of myself physically. And even though I feel not well, and I know that, well, I'm not going to the gym as much, and oh, I ate, chips and it made my stomach bloated or whatever. Even though I know those, I know the indicators, um, I might not feel like doing what I need to do in order to change it at the time.
Okay.
And the same thing would be for our spaces, even though we may have experienced the difference between how it felt before property healing and how it felt after energetically and also situationally. um, we may just get kind of whooped up and then we may also forget. We may kind of, and then all of a sudden we'll be like, oh my God, yes, I forgot. Okay, maybe that's why this is so much chaos in my life. Maybe that's why I'm more emotional. I forgot that I also can do that. And so I think it's a practice of continuing to maybe even just scheduling. So, the average person, we suggest having a property healing every season. So, at the end of every season, much like you do
Okay.
spring cleaning, things like that, or at the end of summer, you're preparing for the winter and the fall and things like that. But because I am who I am and I work in the field of alternative therapies and healing, my house tends to be more active spiritually and energetically. So I have to do it much more frequently. And I'm much more sensitive to that kind of stuff. So, but for the average person, once a season or twice a season is fine after any major transitions, things like that. Or if you notice that things are just way out of balance and it's just too chaotic and you're like, you kind of, oh, maybe it's because something's in my space that shouldn't be or whatnot.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks so much, Beth. I really appreciate you chatting with me today, and I know that this is going to bring a whole new perspective on our homes to a lot of people who have never likely ever considered that our home could be a reflection of us and our inner world. Everything is interconnected, and so why not? Why not our home, our cars, like all of these things being a reflection of us? And if we know that we need to take care of our physical bodies, our mental body, our emotions, all of these things, then why wouldn't we then need to take care of our spaces, the spaces where we spend so much time in, where we sleep, where we're completely vulnerable, you know? So I greatly, greatly appreciate your time today and chatting. Now, if people would like to get a hold of you, you are in the Ottawa area. How could they do that to connect with you to find out more? And I believe that your website has all of the information that anyone could also need as well.
Yes, absolutely. So the best way to get a hold of us is on the website, propertyhealing.ca. You can email us through that website. All the pricing is clear on there, different options of what we do, as well as Wayne Mackenzie's offerings are also on the website. So propertyhealing.ca is the best way to get a hold of us and find out more information.
Beautiful. Thanks, Beth. Now, are you still doing healings yourself as well? Are you seeing clients if someone wanted to connect with you? Because I know firsthand, I have experienced sessions with Beth, and she is a phenomenal, fantastic, wonderful space holder and healer. And so, if anyone is looking to do not only work on their property, but maybe some work on themselves, could they connect with you? How? Same way?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not, I don't have regular, we'll say office hours, so to speak, but I do have private clients that reach out to me and always make time to hold space for people when they need it. So my healing website is down. I'm kind of in transition, we'll say, uh, in on the World Wide Web. Um, but the best way to get a hold of me for any type of that kind of work would either be through my Facebook page, which is, I think, oh gosh, well, you can find me on
I
as
think it's Beth
Beth
Sturdevant,
Sturdevant.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's got those little handles or whatever they're called.
Oh, I don't know about that
But
stuff.
Beth,
Okay, thank you again so much, my dear friend, for sharing your knowledge, wisdom, energy, all of those things, time with me and with listeners today. I'm really, really grateful. And you've definitely reminded me that it is more than time for my space to be cleared. So thank you for that inspiration as well and that reminder.
you're welcome. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for tuning in to Feel, Peel, Thrive. I'm so grateful you're here and part of this space for reflection and growth. If something from today's episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend or someone who might need it. And take a moment to rate, comment, or leave a short review for me on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It really helps the podcast to grow and keeps these conversations flowing to more people who are ready to shift how they see health and healing. Together, we can help more people feel, peel, and thrive from the inside out.